instead of having 2.5, 3 weeks to write this proposal, maybe down to a week. Because this process doesn't necessarily go faster just because you're in a hurry.
I have a question about the working day greater than 20 days. If that means before you write a proposal, you must submit a proposal idea
Yes.
to the university.
Yes.
So it's just a roughly idea what you are going to.
You have a form in your packet. It's one of the forms on the website, and it asks for just some preliminary information. There's 2 or 3 key pieces of information there that do need to be filled in pretty carefully, though. We'll especially any matching requirements, space issues, and personnel time. Because this form is where those signatures and agreements are made for any commitments to those things. So in this timeline, you have a lot of things that you need to do to assess a funding opportunity. Within that initial finding the opportunity, deciding if it's going to work for you, and then figuring out what has to be done during this process, in this timeline. And so you need to read very carefully and look for at least these things, and maybe missed a couple. And there are often special requirements for different proposals. First of all, does it fit your concept? If it doesn't fit your concept, then it's not really a funding opportunity. Are there special eligibility rules? Does Lincoln University qualify and might be excluded for some particular reason? Or in other cases, it may only be that the university can submit one proposal to this package, and so you better start talking to people. Is this going to work? Is this idea acceptable? If there are competing ideas, what's the process for deciding which proposal is going to be written and submitted?
And Mike, that's another good point for the letter of intent, because if Kendra receives 2 or 3 letters of intent for one solicitation, then she immediately knows if it's limited, and we can start those discussions. Otherwise, we might not know.
Are there budget limitations that would preclude you from being able to complete your project? And if there are caps on budgets that you just can't do your work within those, then move on to something else or find a different way to do it. Are there matching requirements? And this is one that's sometimes they're required, sometimes they're not required. Sometimes there can be a variety of in-kind. They may require cash matching, and especially for anything that requires cash matching, you better have a source identified for that match. Same for in-kind. You need to think through if it's personnel time, who is it? Are they eligible for the match in this regard? So these are things that you haven't even filled out your proposal idea form yet, but these are things that you're going to need to fill it out. Are the facilities available? They may not be available, so you need to know whether or not you can rent space, lease space, even find a way of providing facilities through that mechanism. Are you going to need bids or quotes, estimates on whether it's construction or large equipment or whatever? It can take a while to get those. You may need those. In some cases, institutional review board, whether it's for human subjects or animal care protocols, some do require approvals in advance to be submitted with the proposal. Some may allow you to submit as pending, or to submit an approved protocol if funding is a little bit later. Are there required partnerships, consultants, external evaluators? Those things take time to build sometimes. If there are other universities involved, sometimes you may have to run your paperwork through their administrative administrative process as well.
I have a question about letter of support and commitment. So when do we get, or from whom do we get letter of commitment? Is it the case when we have like a subcontractor?
It depends on the guidelines, and sometimes they will specifically identify the letters that you need.
But for like, for example, letter of support would be if we get, for example, from our dean or from maybe a colleague. When is this, when do you get that to support your application?
Right, you need to, this is just, you're still looking at the RFP, you're trying to think about your timeline. Who are you going to need to contact, what are you going to need to get from them to fit into whatever time frame you have to work on this. Any external agreements, whether it's, again, consulting, subcontracting, whatever has to be done in advance of submitting the proposal. We have some programs that require additional internal review, which takes much longer than 4 weeks. The 1890s capacity building grants have a completely separate internal review process that takes several weeks to 2 or 3 months to get through. If you have collaborators from multiple departments, cross-college collaborations, everything has to run through the multiple administrative channels for signatures, and that may take a little more time. If you have letters of support or commitment, in some cases they may ask for an administrative commitment. They may ask for commitment from partners or contractors. You need those things in place. Does it require a letter of intent? And what kind of submission? Is it electronic paper submission? What's the deadline date? Is it posted in terms of acceptance of an electronic application, or postmark date for a paper copy, or a mail copy in some cases? And so, if you get through all of that, you are ready to prepare your proposal idea form and begin writing the proposal and collecting all these pieces of documentation. So initially, we have the proposal idea form, and it asks for project director, department, title, funding agency, proposed start date, duration, estimated cost. And when you get down to this middle section, I think really, if something is going to require matching, if you check the yes box, it doesn't ask for documentation, but you need to submit documentation of where that match is going to come from and how much it's going to be. If you have a canvas project we carried out in existing space, if you check the no box, again, you need to document how you're going to address that. Personnel, for if this is going to be reassigned time from normal academic loading or whatever loading, this is something you need to work out with your supervisors in advance. And how much time, how much will you be devoting to this project, will that impact your other job, your primary responsibilities? And then that begin that process of getting those agreements.
Before you move on, this is actually the most important form. Everything on this form is important. The reason why is because everyone looks at something different. This goes to your department head, your dean, and your vice president. And so even though they're all looking for something different to make sure that they have matching if it's required, who's involved, whether or not they have the time, I don't look for any of that because they've already signed off on it, which means that they're okay with it. I'm looking at what's the solicitation number and who's the funding agency. The reason why when you decide to write a grant, you need to submit this as soon as possible and not with your proposal is because if you submit, am I being paid?